customer experience. And that's very critical, right? Along with the reliability and everything goes with it. But having to sit 2 hours to charge is not a good experience, right? That doesn't motivate somebody to get into an EV. And so building bigger stations, not only us, but anyone else that's coming into the space, build bigger is my message overall. And then obviously continue to focus on fast public charging. I think that served the industry well. It served the market well. We hear from customers, they like speed, they want to get in and out. And so that's very critical. And we see the roadmaps of electric vehicles going that route. Next slide. We continue to make significant investments on the operation and maintenance side, and that's people, processes, and systems across the board, right? There's a lot of learnings from the early days from where we're at today. And so how we organize, how we dispatch, that also feeds into the technology. What more information can we get from the charger to the network operations center so that if an issue does happen, we're able to better respond with the right kind of technician, the right kind of parts to quickly fix an issue. So we're getting better at it. We saw in our response times in California, they're coming down. We're getting better at getting out there and getting things fixed. Next slide. We're also looking at our rural communities, right? A lot of these stations are in pretty remote locations. And so how we address issues there needs to change as well, right? Technicians maybe live 2 or 3 hours away from these locations. And so we need to make sure that the way we're handling these stations when we go visit is a little bit broader, more in scope in terms of maybe some stations that we handle in urban areas. So for example, when we go to a site now, for a specific issue that may happen outside of a preventative maintenance activity. But if a connector broke on a station or something like that, we'll go out to replace that connector. But while the technician is there now, their scope of work has increased to go in depth on every single station that's there in terms of cleaning, checking out subsystems to see what may fail next and make the proper repairs while they're there, right? So trying to be as proactive as possible in these rural communities because they serve vital linkage points as well, and making sure we can address issues before they happen. Next slide. Staff talked about our replacement plan. So, we have a set of metrics by which we look at chargers in terms of which should be on the list first in terms of replacement. In the plan, we have somewhere about 500 chargers, 600 chargers that we would like to replace going forward. About half of those are in LIC-DAC communities as well as rural communities. And if you could look by the map, right, it's spread out, by geography across the state. So there's no one region, no one urban core that's getting all the upgrades, right? We took a broad-based approach in terms of how we look at this and making sure we're serving the whole of the state. Next slide. In terms of new investment, we'll use the same rubric that we've continued to use through our cycle 1, 2, and 3. A big part of that rubric is also focusing on the LIC-DAC community. That's why we've been successful to achieve the above 50% target. We'll continue to do that and move forward using that in our metric. Again, that is ingrained in our organization in terms of how we think about our investments and making sure we're always addressing those communities. Fine. Again, power, I think everyone knows, the power delivery in terms of vehicles is growing bigger and bigger. And so the early investments we made in the 350, 150 kilowatt charging has served the industry well, served the market well. Automakers are potentially looking at going higher. And so we'll continue to listen to the market to figure out what we need to bring to market in the future. But high power charging is certainly a much needed product in the market. Next slide. So a little bit of our community engagement and marketing. Next slide. So we're really excited and happy to support CARB and the ZEEK program. So we will in cycle 4 support that effort, as well as continue to work with our community-based organizations. They've been, like I said, the most effective folks in terms of our investment, getting to the communities, helping with ride-in drives, helping these folks get out of old dirty vehicles and either into a used or new vehicle, electric vehicle, and helping them with incentives and other things and figuring those things out. So they've been very vital. They've also really helped us from a STEM standpoint, right? Not only providing curriculum and teaching for 4th to 12th graders, but also at the trade level, right, working with community colleges to provide education to create the next technicians that can work on electric vehicle supply equipment. Next slide. And on our branded and non-branded marketing side, I think the real focus we want to take here is education, right? How do you use a charger? What to expect when you go on? Our data says if it's a first-time user, they have a high success of failing on their first try, probably on their first 2 tries. So we know we have work to do there. I'm a longtime user. I drove from LA to Sacramento up on Tuesday. I stopped in Kettleman City. I went out to charge. I plugged it in and I got a communication error. But what happens, I didn't plug the connector all the way. I didn't hear the little click that you have to hear, right? And I've charged thousands of times, but it happens, right? And so for a new user, how do you deal with that situation? And you know, how do we inform the driver? So a lot of education still has to go in terms of how you use the stations and how to handle certain situations. So we'll continue to do that. Next slide. In terms of timeline, it's very similar as we've done in previous cycles, especially as it relates to new station development. Next slide. The sooner we can get going, the better, right? The total cycle to develop a new station is somewhere in the 18-month time frame. So it's a very long cycle. Some projects can take 24 months or longer, depending on where we're building. We're also looking to build bigger sites. So we've really got to start early in terms of starting the real estate acquisition. And once we acquire the real estate, that moves on to design and permitting, and then the construction and commissioning of the station. In parallel to that, we'll continue all of our activities around the maintenance, OEM, operation maintenance, all the good work the Electrify America people plus our suppliers and partners in the space have done to continue to focus on reliability and improvement of the network. All that will continue, as well as then starting our next cycle in the CBOs and working with those community-based organizations. And with that, I think that's the last slide. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions if there are any, or
check 1, check 2,
whatever the process is next.
All right, thank you. I think what we'll do is have some time for board members to ask you some questions, and then we will go to public comment. Then we'll bring it back to the board for some more discussion. I'm gonna go ahead and start the questions because, as you know, a long time, very heavy user of the Electrify America network. Appreciate the growth of that network. You know, seeing some of these gaps starting to fill in. I think that growth is really important, and I'm really pleased to see the maintenance piece in this plan, because that customer experience is, as you have articulated, the biggest concern and the biggest challenge I think you all need to overcome. I know Electrify America is not alone in this issue. You know, there are reliability challenges with the other companies as well. And so I paid particular attention to the maintenance plan. And it's partly informed by, you know, obviously by my own anecdotal experience, which is, you know, which, as we know, is not scientifically valid, but it is what people are hearing when they're making decisions about electric vehicles. In slide 20, you had a picture of the Raju Countryside Mart in Lost Hills. I was there 2 weeks ago. I tried to charge at Charger 3. It didn't work. Called the customer service line, waited, you know, like 10-ish minutes. The guy goes, oh, and it was showing operable on the app. And the guy goes, oh, my data is showing me that has not had a successful charge in 3 days. I'm like, okay, why is it showing available on the app? And, you know, consider this yet another report of an unsuccessful charge. The next day, I went on my app after I got home, still showing available. Plug share check-in still showing, oh, charger 3 is not working, charger 3 is not working.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check test 1 2. Checking 1 2. Check 1 2. Low frequency down. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Let's check the channel input. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Let's bring down the noise gate. Check 1 2. 1 2. Noise gate. 1 2 1 2. Okay, frequency up a little. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Compressor threshold, bring down. Check 1, check 2. Check 1, check 2. Testing, check 1, check 2. Boy, it's really fighting me. Check 1, check 2. Let's bring down that noise gate just a hair more. Check 1, check 2. Getting a little bit brighter. Check 1, check 2. Get that compressor. Check 1, check 2. Let's compress less. Check 1, check 2. Check 1, check 2. Less compression. Check 1. Let me start off. There you go. The cute little cuts. Long day. Long day? Long one here, too. Did you throw jello or mud on them? No. Okay. Hey, look, there I am. I'm live streaming what I'm recording here on YouTube.
Where's the camera? It's not doing me.
Hmm?
It's not doing me.
Yeah, it's right there. See, there you go. See, there's me tapping it. Testing, check 1, check 2. It's really fighting me. Check 1, check 2. Check 1, check 2. Getting a little bit brighter. Check 1, check 2. Compressor, check 1, check 2. Compress less, check 1, check 2. Down, 2, less compression, check 1. I don't think so. get that off soon.